Hey, what's up y'all? This is William, the Permaculture Consultant, and today we're going to be, well, today is processing day for turkeys. Now, what's cool about this video is that we're going to be solving two issues when it comes to processing turkeys, right? So the kill cone situation, a lot of the kill cones that we have for chickens and for ducks are too small for turkeys, especially these giants that we're going to be processing today. Also, freezer space. So a lot of people don't have enough freezer space to be keeping whole turkeys like the ones you would find for Thanksgiving and the ones you'd find at the grocery store. Typically it comes in like whole carcasses, right? Well, we're going to be solving that problem. We're going to be piecing these turkeys out. Sorry, we're right next to a busy road. But we're going to be piecing these turkeys out so they can fit in a more compact space, compact size, all that type of stuff. Now remember, before we get into the processing, the Sovereign Health Summit is going to be next October. All the information is linked down below. Some great healers are going to be there, Barbara O'Neill. Also, if you want a permaculture consultation. Funny enough, the people that I'm helping process turkeys here, we're at my friend's house, actually started off as a consultation. So they hired me to do a consultation, became friends with them, and now look at us, we're processing turkeys together. So if you'd like a consultation, hit up the email down below. Let me know, hey, I'm interested in a consultation. Also a soil biology test. You want me to look at your soil underneath the microscope, determine what biology is there, what needs to be there, what we need to do to improve your soils. Hit up the same email down below, and if you want to learn everything I know about permaculture, hit up the Patreon permaculture design course that I'm teaching. It's also, everything I just mentioned is linked down below in the description box. Also, quick little side note, if you need a first aid kit, now this is going to come in handy, especially today. If you need a first aid kit because of constant nicks and cuts and bruises and scrapes and all that stuff, hit up Kentucky Sustainable Living. They've started selling some of their own first aid kits and some of the best prices. I use it. I've bought, I think, 2 of them, or I got 2 of them from them, and I use them more often than I probably should have to. So that'll be linked down below as well. Save you a percentage. I think it's 10% down below. Anyway, let's get on to processing turkeys. All right, so the first problem we're gonna solve is the kill cone situation for turkeys, because turkeys won't fit in your chicken kill cone. So I got my buddy JD over here.
Yeah.
He's the owner of this homestead. Yep, there we go.
Look at the size of this compared to the size of the turkey. That's not gonna fit.
Yeah.
He's kind of big.
Yeah. So what'd you do to this bucket to kind of retrofit it for turkeys?
We watched a couple of different videos on YouTube, and there are some processes where you cut a V. Well, first you cut the bottom off of a bucket, cut a V into it, and then cut through this reinforcement. And then you can kind of spin it into a cone. And one guy used zip ties, other guy used screws to attach it into a cone, and that all works. I went a little more simple. I used a 4-inch hole saw and just put a hole in the bottom of a 5-gallon bucket, and then used some deck screws and washers to attach it to a board. So this was super simple. I think this is gonna work. We'll find out. Never tried it before.
Yeah, and we're only processing 2, so
yeah,
this should work. All right, and then your water situation. This is this is pretty innovative. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So in the past, we've used a propane burner and a stock pot to get our scald water, but we could never maintain an accurate temperature. And pretty much every time we'd end up cooking the meat a little bit, and if the scald is too hot, I think it causes the skin to tear when you pluck it with a machine plucker.
Right.
We don't have a machine plucker for a turkey, so we're gonna hand pluck those today. But talking to William yesterday, he knew I had a sous vide machine, and he's like, why don't you use the sous vide? So that's what we did. This is extremely accurate. This will hold temperature exactly where you want it.
That's awesome.
So yeah.
And that one can heat up how many gallons again?
This is rated for 10 gallons.
It's
a commercial kitchen sous vide machine. There's smaller ones, you know, that you can get on Amazon or wherever.
Right.
They're less
cool.
expensive. This one's a little more expensive, but it's industrial, so it'll last forever.
That's cool. All right. So, and then this ice bucket is for, Tracy, do you want to talk about that at all?
So in the past, when we've been processing chickens, I feel like the meat, after it's in the hot water, it kind of starts cooking. And if I take very long with plucking, then I feel like the meat starts kind of getting tough, or getting cooked. So we decided to go with ice bath, and hopefully, I just feel like it might work better. So we're going to try that today.
We've never tried it before.
Awesome.
This will be our first time.
I did try it one time. Yeah.
Never mind.
No, I did. But yeah,
Awesome.
but last time I did some birds, I did.
So it goes from the heated water to the ice bucket
ice
to
bucket.
stop the cooking.
Yes.
Awesome.
And then we'll take off the feathers.
All right, so before this week, I've never been around a turkey other than to see a few on the Air Force Academy in Colorado, just running around in the woods. It was a little daunting to just walk up to a big turkey and grab it.
Yeah.
They're very strong. You got to contain their wings, because one of these guys caught me across the bridge of my nose with his wing bones, and it was just like getting punched in a fight when I was a kid.
Yeah. Look at him. He's ready to fight right now.
know.
He's got his
Yeah.
like, feathers all ready.
He's not happy, so I'm gonna
Okay.
grab him
Mm-hmm.
and I'll contain him.
Yeah.
And I've got some wire over there if you want to tie off his feet.
Okay.
Like, however you want to go about this.
If you want to grab him,
I'll tell you what,
contain him.
I'll let you direct me.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Here we go.
He's like, you ready to fight, dude? Because we're going to fight. Say goodbye, cruel world.
Okay, I got his head.
Okay.
Yeah, I got his
Cool. Then you got his feet, JD?
I do.
And we're just tying off the feet. So that way he doesn't, after we make the cut, which I'm gonna have to delete off YouTube. In fact, I might put the video on Patreon if you wanna learn how to make the cut. But this is to make sure he doesn't like get his feet down in the bucket and then kick himself out. And then we got a bleeding turkey moving everywhere. So yeah, if you want to see the cut on how to do the cut, I guess go to Patreon. Okay, so whenever you're going to make the cut on a turkey, you feel for the jawbone. You want to go just up from that jawbone, and then you're going to use plenty of pressure, and you want to try to do everything in one cut, so that way you're not, making the animal suffer. When they're upside down, their blood pressure skyrockets, and as soon as you give access for that blood to release, they instantly pass out. So the heart's still pumping, they're still pumping the blood out of the meat, but the animal's not suffering, it's out. As soon as you make that cut, you're good to go. The only time it would suffer is if you're just sawing at the neck. So one cut is all it should take. And you always want to cut the side of the neck, not the center of the neck. So if you cut like it's trachea and it's a airway, you're going to be getting blood up in there and it's going to suffocate to death as opposed to bleed to death, which we are not to be eating animals that are strangulated or strangled. So yeah, just cut the side. Oh. So just cut one side of the neck and not both sides of the neck. Otherwise you'll get blood left in the meat. So ideal scalding, dang, this guy's heavy. Ideal scalding temperature, depending on who you're looking at online, you'll get different answers. Yeah, I think all the water's gonna. But what we have it at is like 148. So 150, some people do 175, but 175 is too hot and we'll start cooking the meat. All righty. Yeah, it's definitely gonna displace
everything.
a lot. All right.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, he doesn't even fit. He's big. Yeah, it worked. They're coming off.
Okay.
So.
And then get the tail feathers.
Get in there, dude.
So note to self.
There we go.
5-gallon buckets are probably okay for a young turkey.
Yeah.
But a fully grown turkey, you probably want to go bigger than 5 gallons.
I would say this is working. Now we'll pull them off. And we'll start plucking right here. You'll know that it's warm enough or that it's been scalded long enough once the wing feathers and the tail feathers start pulling out, because usually those are the toughest feathers. So if they start pulling out, then everything else should come off fairly easily. But if you're just doing a handful of turkeys, plucking by hand really isn't that bad. Some people skin them, but the issue with skinning is that you lose all that potential crispy skin and a lot of the fat. So now after you got the turkey plucked, you're just gonna spray it off. And don't worry, you don't have to get every little pin feather. I mean, get as much as you can, but a lot of this stuff will burn off whenever it gets cooked. And chances are you're probably gonna pluck it better than any grocery store or processing shop or anything like that.
My goal is to spray the turkey off and not spray you off.
Oh yeah, you're good. All right, so now we're into the processing part. So first thing we can do is, you know, decide how much neck you want to keep on the turkey. And I'll say, is this right about here look good for you guys? Okay. And then you just go in between the vertebrae, and that's where you're gonna cut. Just wiggle it back and forth and you'll be able to find in between. You can do some searching with your knife and then cut all the way around.
There you go.
There we go.
Can you just use a cleaver?
You can use a cleaver. The downside of using a cleaver is that you get potential bone fragments, which is fine as long as you are aware of that and just adjust for it. So head in here?
Yep.
Okay. So we got that off, and then we're gonna get the legs or the feet off, the part that, like the foot part, yeah. So what I like to do is hold it straight first, and then you can feel a gap right there between the drumstick and the foot. So you're gonna use the weight of the turkey to make the incision to apply pressure. And then you're gonna follow that around to the back side where you can feel another gap, and you just cut right through and then connect the lines. I like to put sideways pressure in right here. And then you're gonna use more pressure than you are the knife. Use the weight of the turkey to cut this joint. There we go.
That can go in.
And this one. And we're keeping the feet for the dogs, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The dog.
Dog.
Maggie won't eat 'em. She's like, what are you doing to me?
So using the weight of the leg, you just cut right through. Then you're good to go there. And then if there's any leftover feathers, you can just pull them off now. You can pull them off later, whatever. Or a lot of them will just get burned up in the cooking process. All right, so I have my turkey laying here facing me just like this. I'm gonna take the gap between the thigh and the body of the bird, and I'm just gonna cut the skin. Not getting into any meat, just cutting the skin and creating that gap there. And then I'm gonna take these and I'll push down. So that way I have a flat working space. So this way the turkey will sit upright, which is gonna come in handy when it comes to cutting these breasts out. So now we're gonna get into cutting the breast. I'm gonna find the center bone right here, which is the keel bone. And I'm just gonna start with the tip of my knife, just creating an incision just on the side of that keel bone. I'm trying to get as close to the bone as possible, so that way I waste as little meat as possible. And my knife is just gonna ride the side of the keel bone. And remember, the point of this is to, you know, save freezer space, right? So we're not leaving it whole. Ooh, the muscles are still working. And then once you get up into the neck area, you're just gonna cut away the skin. Be careful you don't get into the body of the turkey, because that's where all the organs are. And you're just gonna follow that wishbone.
Is there a reason for doing the butchering before pulling out the innards?
We just don't have to pull out the inner. Well, so if we're going to be
doing a whole bird,
yeah, if we're going to be piecing it out like this, and then I like to do the innards afterwards, so that way I don't run the risk of getting any of the organ juice on the meat. So, and then here you can already see it separating because it's a massive turkey. Here we have the turkey breast, and then in here, right here, is the turkey tender. So if anybody's eaten like chicken tenders before, that's what this is. It's not actually the breast. And you're just gonna wanna follow as close as you can to the existing skeletal structure, and then just peel away from there. And you can do a lot of pulling as well. It's just whenever you notice like oh crap, you're separating like meat from itself, that's when you switch over to the knife. But pulling will give you the lines to follow. Jeez, this thing is massive. And I'm trying to get, even though this is not going to be the prettiest cuts, I'm trying to get every scrape of meat off of this bone as possible, or off this carcass as possible.
part it out this way, how do you like to cook it?
My favorite form of turkey is smoked.
Yeah.
Is just treating all these pieces like barbecue, especially when it comes to, I mean, who doesn't love like a smoked leg?
I know.
Turkey leg. Okay, so right here, you have your tender, which can just be, it's the only thing keeping it to the breast is the silver skin, that silver skin connection there. But we can cut that off. And here we go, we have the turkey tender right here. And then we have the turkey breast right here. The breast is underneath the tender part. Oh, just getting some feathers off. But this is the breast, this is the tender. And then this breast also has other parts you can kind of clean up and get more of a solid, uniform looking breast. But this is what it looks like just overall. And then you're gonna follow the same process on the other breast. So again, just find that keel bone, which if you're used to processing chickens, this is going to be a little bit thicker than the one you're used to on the chicken processing. I'm just gonna follow up against that keel bone, try to stay as tight to it as possible so that way you don't waste any meat. So depending on which handed you are, you can always just move your turkey, move it around to make it comfortable for you. There we go. So now we got the second breast and then the tender right here. Let me separate the tender again so you guys can see. It's just follow that seam right there, and then there you go. There's a tender, and there's your very, very large turkey breast. And then from here, you only have a couple more cuts, right? So you have the two wings and then you have the legs. Now, while I can still utilize the weight of the carcass, I'm gonna get these wing tidbits off. There we go. Because these don't really hold a lot of meat even on a turkey. So I'm gonna get both of those off. And yeah, I like to do it whenever I can still utilize the weight of the turkey to kind of help me expose those joints and everything. There we go. And now, you have a couple options. You can either get the legs off or the wings off. I'll go ahead and use the wings. So it's literally just, you see this angle that the wings are making right here? You're literally just gonna cut, you're gonna lift up the turkey a little bit and then cut at that 45-degree angle. And then a lot of the wing, especially when you have the weight of the rest of the turkey, is just gonna come off. Make sure you're in the gap. There you go. There's your gigantic turkey wings. With these guys, I would even break them down a little bit more. So you're just gonna cut down that gap, right? And then you're gonna fold it over, wiggle for that gap, and then you find it, and then you cut there. And then you can do some breaking if you need to. But once you expose that gap, it's fairly easy. So we got our drum, and then we got our flats. So with the thighs, I like to flip it over for this part because there's an important part of the thigh that I want to make sure I don't miss, and it's this pocket right here. So you have your, I guess it's dislocated. Now it's relocated. So you have your leg, and then you have your thigh, and then there's like this little piece of pocket meat right here that's very, very tender. It's called like the oyster, but it's a very, very tender part of the thigh, and you want to make sure you don't miss it. And really the only way to see it is to flip the turkey over around its backside. So that's where I'm going to start my cut, is around that pocket, and I'm just following bone. And it's going to be like a U shape until I get back to that ball joint that the thigh is in. And to expose that joint even more, since it's dislocated, I can just keep pulling and get good access to the other side of that joint. And then once I get past, once I get past that joint, remember, I want to follow this line. So I need to angle it so I'm following this line, because if I look on this end, I'm going to be missing a bunch of meat. So look here on this back end, and then make sure your knife is flat with the carcass. And then there you go. Oh, see, you can even still see there's a little bit of meat behind here. And I was laying flat, like from here to here is a flat surface, and there's still a little bit of meat behind. But you get this like wonderful little pocket of meat right there. That's one of the best parts on a bird. And then to separate these guys, I'm just going to use the weight of it, wiggle this back and forth. If I can feel a joint between the drumstick and the actual thigh, also this fat seam right here, if I just cut along that fat seam, I'm going to hit the joint. So I'll do that real quick. There we go. We got a drumstick and we got a gigantic thigh. That thing is so freaking big. This is probably going to be the trickiest part once you get to this stage, because you have only a section of a bird left and it doesn't want to lay in a cooperative position. There we go.
Is usually that much blood left in the bird?
Around the joints and the bones, yeah, there's not a whole lot you can do about that, but that's typical.
Yeah.
Okay. Which was a good question. Is there usually this much blood around the bones and the joints, or blood left in the chicken or in the turkey? And I would say, yeah, for turkeys, that's pretty typical. Getting it away from the joints and the all that, it can be kind of difficult, even if you do everything right. So don't be disappointed by it. It's not like you're leaving all of the blood. Most of the blood, a large portion of the blood ended up in that bucket over there. There we go. And we have another drum and another thigh, which looks like a manta ray. And then we have this last wing left, which is super easy because we still have the weight of the carcass. There we go. And then we can break this down even more. Most of processing is just following the lines. Once you identify the lines, then processing animals is typically pretty easy. There we go. And then we have the carcass left, which you can do any number of things. Like if you have like pigs on your property, you can throw these in the freezer and then you can feed it to them on hot days. That's the Greg Judy pig sickle method. You can take the organs out and you can feed them to the dogs like you guys plan on doing, right? Compost material is fantastic compost material. But to get into the organs, we just want to open this pouch up right here, right? And you're just opening up enough of a pouch to get your hand in and out. Now, I typically hand this part off. Thank you. I typically hand this part off because my hands are typically big, and on chickens, I'll just be in there like busting organs. So I'm gonna hang it off the end so I don't contaminate my table with anything. And here is a heart, I believe. And then you
No, we want that.
Oh, gotcha.
Sorry.
Wrong
I
container.
was thinking it was the gutty guts.
And then you can just reach in and start, especially once you make the incision up here on the neck. Almost dropped everything. Just make an incision up here on the neck. And then you have very little that's containing the rest of these organs. Everything else can just be pulled off that back wall at this point. But you have some lungs. You want the lungs?
Sure.
Okay. The green organ you don't want.
No.
All right, so after doing the processing, all of the cuts were immediately going into an ice chest with a little splash of apple cider vinegar, water, and then ice. And you'll just change out the ice over the course of, or not the ice, but the water, over the course of the next, like just overnight, 12 to 24 hours, you're just going to flush out the water, add more ice. You want this about the temperature of well water. That's like the perfect temperature. And this will result in like more tender meat. I don't know all the science terms and whatnot, but it's a better product. So definitely do this. And then he's going to make the cut.
Jawbone.
Yep. And then back to the scalder. So I guess 5-gallon bucket does work. You just got to refill and reheat after each bird. Which if you're only doing 2 like us, that's perfectly fine. And then you just flip them over to get the other side. And then the plucking part, again, is pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, you want to fold it over on itself just so you can find the joint. And then once you find it, then you can kind of exploit it. There you go.
Hi, Head.
The slit, the gap between the thigh and the body of it, and then dislocate everything.
Okay.
Just the skin, not meat.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the skin. Right. Just that kind of that gap between.
Okay.
Watch your knife.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. And then with those guys, what I like to do is just hold on to the leg, pull up, creates pressure, and then as soon as you find that gap, you know, because it gives way. So now you want the breast, and I use the tip.
Okay.
So you want to find the keel bone, which is the center bone right here if you think sternum, and then you want to be just off to the side of it to cut into the meat. And then I just scratch with the tip of the knife. Because there's a saying, small cuts, small mistakes. And then I just flick with the tip of the knife. So that way you can still ride the side of that bone. And then with your left hand, you're gonna be pulling the breast away so you can still see the gap. Okay. And then you're gonna follow this line right here, because that's the wishbone. Make sure you don't get into the crop, which is right here. You're gonna wanna stay up against the wishbone. And just remember the breast is bigger than you think.
So
the crop is right here.
Okay.
Yeah, do you see this line?
Yes. So I'm just gonna
use your finger. Use your finger to feel where the bone is.
Okay.
There you go. And you can even use your finger as a guide and kind of push the crop away.
Okay.
There you go. There you go. That's good. Yeah. Now you see all that? That's breast.
Yeah.
That's all breast.
Yeah.
And this right here is crop.
Right. So we're just gonna kind of cut this tissue.
Yep.
Okay.
And you're gonna want to angle that way, the tip of your knife going that way, because now you're getting into the cavity of the body, because right here is the wishbone. You feel that?
Yes.
Yep, that's the wishbone.
And so I want to take that, I want that to be on the carcass.
You want to leave the wishbone,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
So I would connect right through here.
Okay.
So that way you have one connected piece that you can pull off.
Okay.
You're doing good.
Yeah, you're doing really good. You're not leaving like any meat on the carcass.
That's good.
And now here you're getting into the wing, so I would cut that connection.
Right there. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay.
There you go.
All right.
And then there's one tender and breast.
Let the weight of the bird.
Yep. And you're just gonna cut in the armpit in the gap. So I think you're a little too deep. There you go. There you go, you got it. There you go. Got the wing. Now remember on this, I like to flip it over and include that oyster.
Find that back there.
Yeah.
Okay,
Which is
that open.
this right here, this little pocket of meat right there coming off the thigh is the most like tender part on the chicken. And then at this point I would for sure be lifting up the leg so that way you can disconnect that ball joint, and then you can follow flat along this side right here.
Okay, there we go.
There you go. And then you have the drumstick and then the thigh. The feathers will go to compost. Same with the blood and all that stuff. That'll go to compost.
Your ice chest.
Some of the carcass will. And then the ice chest, you just throw your parts and pieces in an ice bath. Add a little apple cider vinegar. You guys added salt too, didn't you?
I don't know.
No? Some people add salt, and then it's going to chill in here for 12 to 24 hours. You want it about the temperature of well water, and it'll just result in more tender meat, poultry in general. And then you just package it up after that.